Welcome to Ratchet & Clank, and the first ever trophy grind on the channel. Now, Ratchet & Clank is without question one of my favourite game series of all time. It's a series that just really defined my PS2 era of gaming, and the amount of hours I just sunk into the first 4 titles is ridiculous. It's a game about a lone Lombax by the name of Ratchet, who teams up with a little metal champion in order to save the galaxy from the evil chairman Drek, who is destroying planets and taking chunks out of the debris to make his own brand new planet. It's an odd premise, sure, but it's something that we need to stop all the same. Now, the first Ratchet & Clank is the one I always thought was the weakest out of the ones that I'd played, but I haven't really touched the series in about 5 years. So will this opinion still be valid as we start to tackle the entire series and, more importantly, the 35 trophies that this game has to offer? Well, I can say for sure that this game was a much more exhausting grind than I was expecting, but more on that later. And also, folks, if you do enjoy the video or find yourself coming back to the channel regularly, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out, and well, you're coming back anyway, so why not? Plus, over half of you that are watching my videos aren't subscribed, so please and thank you. For now though, and for the first time, welcome to the welcome to the trophy grind. The game starts with Ratchet, a creature called a Lombax and the last of his kind. He is working on some custom repairs to his ship, however he is missing a vital piece to get it up into the air. Meanwhile, in a robot making factory, a malfunction happens that turns a beefy war unit into a tiny and adorable companion. He then sees something rather surprising, and knowing he's been made, he flees and takes to the skies to evade his pursuers. He does a wonderful job, but eventually does take a hit and crashes down on a local planet. Surprisingly, it's Ratchet's planet, and being the hero that he is, Ratchet goes to investigate. And I also say hero lightly, as it turns out that Ratchet is in fact a genocidal, mass-murdering maniac, but more on that later. Now, honestly folks, I was already so much in my element here. Just hearing the iconic level music, it flooded my brain with the happy juice, and the nostalgia was already hitting hard. Now, something I should mention as well is that bolts are the currency of this game. They can be found by killing enemies in these handy little boxes scattered around all of the levels, and there are some other small methods on earning your riches as well. But with these bolts you can buy new weapons and ammo, armor upgrades, and information to drive the story. And I mention them now for a reason that we'll get to later on as well. For now though, we just make it through the not so friendly level in order to make it to the crashed ship, killing these adorable yet spooky mutant things along the way. Here we are also introduced to our first weapon, the bomb glove. Simple in premise, see an enemy, lob a bomb, job's a good un. Moments later though, we make it to the small metal one and take him back to our ship. Whilst we work on it some more, the metal boyo awakens and talks to Ratchet. The small tin one wants to know the location of a universally known hero, Captain Quark, in order to save the galaxy. But Ratchet doesn't have a clue, so we're shown the video that Clank saw. Here we are introduced to Chairman Drek, and his master plan to craft a new planet made from those that he thinks are dying due to overpopulation or toxicity and other stuff like that. Now, the way he's making his planet is by extracting huge regions off other planets and then fusing them all together. And unfortunately, after he has removed the chunk from the planet, it of course just explodes and dies. But who cares, because Thanos 2.0 has a job to do, but so do we, and we have to stop him. Now, unfortunately, the ship that Ratchet's working on isn't going anywhere, but thanks to our new friend, we come to a deal. Ratchet will take him to a planet. In return, Clank will get the ship flying. And with more fleets after Clank arriving, we set off. And Drek is already onto us and sends a shadowy figure to go and stop us. On the ship, introductions are given and Ratchet gives Clank his name. Before the ship we fly then spins out of control and we crash into another planet. With no other options, we must search this war-ridden planet in order to find a new ship. Now, Ratchet and Clank does play in a very similar way throughout the game. You go from planet to planet, you kill creatures, you find clues on where to go next and get new weapons and gadgets to advance the plot. And since there are a lot of planets to go through, I'm not going to be detailing everything that happens on every single one, just the specific things that happen on the planet that we need to know going forward. This planet is Navalis, the planet that Drek was addressing on stealing. So the first thing we do is explore the waterworks of the level. Now, something here happened that surprised me. In this game there are 40 collectible golden bolts that we need to find, and in the first room we find our first one as I remembered its location from when I was a kid. It totally threw me that I knew immediately where to go, but we wall bounced our way up to the first bolt and now we only have 39 to go. Now, this level has its share of dangers, from robots to traps and everything in between, but we eventually make it to the end of the waterworks and find this rather distinguished gentleman, the local plumber. He says that we all need to get off planet, but that he can't because he can't afford it. However, he does have an info bot that we can buy off him that will give us our next planet destination, once we get a ship for ourselves. An easy trade if you ask me. The info bot then shows two people crashing onto a planet. Apparently the gent on the left is called Skid McMarks. Amazing. But he is the local hoverboard legend, so we need to save him at some point. Anyway, with this side of this level done, we need to do the rest. More enemies are ahead of us of course, but they do a terrible job in taking us down, and a couple of minutes later a ship arrives dropping the mayor of the planet back down on here. He is so scared that he just gives us his info bot for free, and it shows the legendary Captain Quark advertise a local robo shack for all his repairing needs. Maybe with him being there, definitely another planet to check out. We then say to the planetary chairman that we are not a threat and we are here to stop Drek, so he kindly and immediately gifts us a new ship. So let's get out of here. The next planet is Iridia, and we're here to help Skid McMarks. We find him literally 10 seconds on the planet and he says that he can't move because of the local wildlife and that he needs to get back to his manager and to his ship. If we take care of the local residents, then we get a hoverboard of our own. So we go to kill the innocent wildlife that did absolutely nothing to me except exist. Now when I said that Ratchet is the villain, this is what I mean. He literally just goes from planet to planet killing absolutely everything in sight before just moving on to the next. Like, Ratchet isn't the hero here. He is a mass murdering genocidal maniac, but oh well. We soon send all the local sand sharks to the afterlife and save Skid. He does indeed thank us for rescuing him though with a new hoverboard that I'm sure that I'm going to love in the future. What in the hell is that? What? Anyway, we explore the planet some more and find the manager as well. He's fine, but apparently because Skid isn't with him that very second, he is no longer his manager. A bit cruel if you ask me, but it opens an opportunity for us, because if we win a hoverboard race ourselves, apparently he'll sign us. And that's pretty tempting. Now something else I need to mention here is that sometimes you can't fully explore planets without finding or buying gadgets from elsewhere. For example, here we need the slingshot to advance this way, but we don't unlock that until we visit the next location. So sometimes you do need to backtrack. For now though, we just set off to Kerwin where Quark shot that advertisement. Now every level in this game gets slightly tougher and tougher, as you'd expect. So this level we have to fight armed guards, robot dogs and minigun helicopters as a couple of examples. After fighting our way through the horde of enemies though, we do make it to Al's Robo Shack. He's the typical nerd of course if you can't tell, but since he hasn't a clue about where Quark is as he only shot the ad with him, he instead says that he can upgrade Clank with a helipack which will allow him to fly and glide and such like that. Totally worth it, as now we can cover bigger distances, have a taller jump to reach places and stuff like that. And folks, the wait is over as we finally have our first trophy. Now in Ratchet and Clank there are skill points to earn on every planet. This is like a little challenge for something silly that rewards the player with bonus content like artwork and such. However, there are 30 skill points in the game, and we get trophies for completing 15, 30, and for some reason about 15 individual trophies for completing individual skill points. The first we have for this planet is to simply glide over to the robot on top of Al's Shack shop and stand in between its legs. We do that, earn our first skill point and our very first trophy ever, strike a pose. And for the most part when we unlock a trophy it will also be skill point related. With the new Clank upgrade we're also able to make it further into the level, and eventually onboard this rather bizarre random train. We then fight our way to the front and find another info bot. This one shows Drek preparing another planet for harvesting, so another planet that we'll need to visit soon. The last thing that we do on this planet for now is a Captain Quark obstacle course? Interesting. We're promised a reward for completing it. It's nothing tricky at all, just generic platform jumping, and we soon make it to the very aggressive trainer at the end of course, ready to claim our reward. However, she's not impressed by us at all, so instead of giving us the reward we then have to buy it from her. Of course we do, and we get the slingshot that I was talking about earlier, and the nasty trainer takes a leave.
The two of you make me sick!
Back on the previous planet, we complete the slingshot obstacle course and find our next gadget, the Trespasser, which will allow us to hack past security doors after completing a short minigame. We just have to align the lasers, and it's for the most part fairly simple. Anyway, with this now, we move on. On the trip to the next planet, we see Drek again. His planet is getting closer to completion. We then land on the tree planet, where we get our next trophy immediately, as when we destroy 10 ships that are flying around, we unlock our next skill point and trophy, Vehicle Bombardier. Excellent. Fighting throughout the level, taking care of Drek's goons, we also make it to another new weapon called the suck cannon, and get our next achievement named after your mother, as by picking it up we unlock Very Sucky. And soon after we head the other way and find the big bad goon that was tasked with destroying this planet. When we get there, he gets easily scared though, rather effortlessly actually, and just runs off, dropping an info bot telling us about the next planet, which seems like a lab where Drek gets gadgets and whatnot made. So with nothing else to do right now, we head straight there. At the first door we also have our first Clank only section. Here we play as Clank and must use our own brains as well as the mind of other drones that he can control to make it through. Now unfortunately these sections aren't that good in my opinion, and are more often annoying more than enjoyable, as it just kind of slows the pace down tons. But we completed the section and unlock a new gadget called the Hydro Displacer, which can basically just relocate water. It's odd, but it's free, so we'll take it. Now back with Ratchet, we make it through further into the complex, dealing with harder enemies of the shooting, biting and nipping caliber, until we eventually find a big red button. We press it and set this part of the ship to explode, also releasing another info bot. Time to run, we think. We manage to evacuate in time with the info bot safe on our ship as well, and go to goggle at its contents. It shows us a special news report on a planet where Quark is meant to be presenting the grand prize to the winner of the intergalactic hoverboard races, and since we like the sound of those hoverboard races, we decide to quickly finish this level. Now this is where we also have our first real challenge and our next skill point, as we eventually make it to an alien queen boss fight. Now killing her normally isn't really that much of a bother, but for the skill point we must kill her by only using our wrench, our weakest weapon. Now this did take a couple of times, as the goons that she summons and the queen herself can shred my little health bar rather quickly, but with some patience and some skill that I had to learn from somebody else, we eventually managed this tricky feat, killed her and unlocked the next skill point and our next trophy, Girl Trouble. In the next room we also find our reward. We find the gadget engineer of the complex and he sells us our next tool, the grind boots. We purchase them off him rather quickly, as using them to grind the rails is rather fun actually, but we also do need them for plot's sake, so result, time to head to the races. We then arrive at Blackwater City and go through the level as we have done previously. The levels are also certainly getting tougher and tougher, but still nothing that we can't handle. If only we had a way to buy a gun that was literally capable of destroying everything in sight. Oh wait, we've found just that, as in the city we find a black market dealer. He wants to sell us something called the Rhino, which stands for Rip You a New One. Deal, I'll take it. Oh wait, it costs 150,000 bolts. Well, guess we'll have to come back when we win the lottery. Ignoring the shady business dealings, we trek on and soon find some jiggle physics. This lovely lady tells us about the races and the gadget for winning it, so with confidence aplenty we set off onto the races. And here folks, we have our first dose of pain. This hoverboard race was so much more difficult than I ever remember it being. It's also not handy that the controls for the hoverboard are a bit jank, but we're going to be spending some time here as I have to come first in the race, then beat it again in a certain amount of time for a skill point, and then to perform a specific trick afterwards. Folks, I'm not going to lie to you here, my sanity broke something rotten trying to do this. All it takes is the slightest mistake and you have to restart, and that's not if your hoverboard just randomly throws you off the edge of the map anyway. But for now we just have to beat the race for the gadget. And thankfully this was the least painful part of the 3 tasks that I have to do here, and after maybe 15 or 20 failed attempts we sped past the finish line and claimed our prize. Now unfortunately Quark isn't here to give it to us apparently. He says well done over a TV, but our prize basically just enhances our hoverboard. Now when we do tricks it gives us boost, which we can use to, well yeah, go faster. Now to retry the race and go for the pain. The first task that I wanted to tackle was to complete the race in under 1 minute 35, which means you more or less have to boost through the entire level, hit every single jump perfectly, and pray to the gods that you don't make a mistake. And mistakes, well, I made several of those, didn't I? No, no, no! Oh, that was so good! That didn't help then. Oh my god, what the that was... how was that the worst one I've done? And of course, as you can tell, I was handling it with grace and decorum. It was honestly even better when my parents came into the chat to see my moulding behaviour. I wasn't really in a good place, folks, but we persevered, and somehow a flip switched, and getting faster and faster laps, until this happened. Two, 3, 4... Yes. and I was so happy to say the least. We completed it with only a 20th of a second spare and unlocked our next trophy, Speedy. Now the last thing that we have to do is to perform a very tricky trick for another achievement. However, this one wasn't anywhere near as annoying, as once we got to the big ramp, we launched off it, spun in every way that we knew how, and did it, unlocking another trophy, Twisted Hoverboard. We rewarded ourselves by doing something odd, as by flipping over the lady who hosts the hoverboard races several times, it turns out that we can increase the size of, chebs. We gave the poor woman horrendous back problems and moved on. In the other direction on the map, we basically have to go through a maze using the hydro displacer to, you guessed it, displace water so that we can move on through. Nothing super challenging here, but we do eventually make it to the other side and make it to Captain Quark's trailer. We pay off the guard protecting him, and inside is surprisingly Quark himself, finally, and he already knows about Drek's plot. He says with our strength combined we can take him down, but we need to prove ourselves just a little bit more to him. We need to head to his headquarters on another planet and go through an obstacle course so that we can talk in private about what we want to do. He then greets us on said planet and tells us that the gauntlet is the perfect test to prove that we're worthy, but we're not scared by some easy as smeg course, are we? So we crack on. Now it is a very generic course, there are traps, there are enemies and difficult platforms to maneuver around, but it's honestly not that tricky at all. And soon we was at the final zone and ready to get this over and done with. Quark then meets us again and says that we just keep on surprising him, but we just need to prove ourselves just one more last time. Although it's also obvious that Quark is acting very bizarrely, and we find out very quickly why, as it turns out that he is of course working with Drek, and he says that he was tasked with killing both of us. Well, he isn't going to kill us, he says, the Blargy and Snaggle beast is, but as a reward for taking us out, Drek said that Quark can be the spokesperson for his new planet, so he basically sold out for everything and goes to kill us. Now we have another boss fight on our hands, and this one is tougher than the alien queen that came before, as he just tanks bullets like you would not believe. However, there is something that even this great beast cannot tank: hot water. Well, lava really, as when he chases us over a badly made bridge, he falls in and takes some huge damage, so now we have our plan. We lure this idiot onto a bridge a couple more times, and on the final time he decides that enough is enough and he just drowns, or melts. Maybe both. But either way, he is dead and Quark's plan has been fumbled. On the way out, we also find another info bot and our next planet. A sergeant is saying that he needs support as his entire army has left him and he's gonna die without us. Now, feeling a bit hero-y, we decided that we can indeed save him. We then arrive at Battaglia and get to saving the locals, which makes a nice change instead of just killing them. The first way that we help is by completing this totally gnarly grind sequence, and when we reach the end, we find a soldier who is clearly scared. He wants to leave, so he sells us an info bot, of course. This one shows another testing facility that we can go and steal some tech from. Not that we really want it though, as it seems to be killing its users, but if they work for Drek, they might also know where he is. We continue making our way through the level, and this one is actually rather tough to get through. However, not impossible, as we do eventually reach the officer. He says that we've shown bravery in making it to him, and he's going to go and find his soldiers whilst we carry on, leaving behind another info bot that shows us another facility that we will need to raid at some point. And since we don't have the right shoes to continue on this planet right now, we must find them first before returning. However, right now, I decided it was time for another trophy. So we head back to the first planet and destroy a single ship trying to escape. We blow up this poor bastard who probably had a family, and we get our next skill point and trophy, unlocking us Take Aim. I honestly just killed an entire family for that. Oh well. We also went back to Skid McMarx's manager, proving to him that we got first place in the hoverboard races, and he says that we're in and hired. He then gives us something called the Sonic Summoner, which allows us to summon robot friends who can help us at certain parts in the level. We also destroyed some more ships on this planet and unlocked the next trophy, Transported, for doing so. It turns out that quite a lot of the skill points are just for killing innocent people in the ships, but sod it, we need the trophies. Now getting a taste for the trophies, we went back to Kerwin and blew up the Quark robot at the beginning of the obstacle course, unlocking us yet another skill point and a trophy, gaining us Quark-tastic. But back to saving the world. Now honestly, I didn't find this planet too tricky enemy wise. With every planet I noticed that the difficulty tweak of the enemies was apparent, but here we was kind of making our way through very well. Now on the first path that we took, we just kept killing people and blowing ships up. Now apparently blowing up destroyer ships was also another trophy, as when we did it and found another golden bolt, we unlocked the trophy Destroyed. Wonderful. Now the same as before, we fought our way through the rest of the level, and as I said, this one was way easier as I thought it was going to be. Eventually we make it to the testing platform we saw from the infobot and grab the helmet that allows us to now fly fighter jets with our brain. Our dry, wrinkle-free brain. With everything done and dusted, we head to the next planet called Oxon. Now this planet is horrendously toxic and Ratchet will die if he sets foot outside, so we have yet another Clank section. I honestly don't know why I dislike these sections so much, but here we are. We annoyingly beat our way throughout the entire level and eventually find our next shoe type, the Magna Boots, that we will need to get through the rest of Battaglia. But we also get our next achievement for finding them Lombax Magnetic. Now when we travel back to Battaglia, I was told of another skill point. The headset that we won earlier that gave us access to the sound mouse, well, all we have to do here is summon him and have it destroy every single tank on the level. And yes, this one was very tricky and took quite a couple of attempts, as I'd either lose focus and die to other things, or the damn thing would just disappear before the job was finished. But we once again persevered and cracked on until this tiny adorable killing machine ripped the last tank apart and we unlocked our next trophy, Eat Lead. We then head back to the toxic planet and take control of Clank once again, this time trying to find a way for Ratchet to breathe here. Now we don't find anything for that, but eventually we find our next infobot, of course. We don't see this one straight away though, as Clank says that he can't let Ratchet see this one, so we head back to the ship and immediately show Ratchet the infobot. It turns out that it's a resort paradise, offering a free O2 mask for those who want to explore the waters, also with another potential upgrade to Clank. Ratchet of course is like, shut up small metal idiot, we're going. And we do. When we arrive it's it's struggling. It's filled with monsters that will attempt to kill you on sight and a war in the sky above us. You know, the usual. But we meet with the gent on the infobot who says that the toxic sludge has ruined the island, so it's closing down. He says that he has a single mask left and we need to escort him to the other side of the island and take care of the war in the sky above us for him to give it to us. So we do just that. We escort this rather happy-go-lucky idiot and destroy all of the mutated marine life in our way, which turns out to be quite a lot. Now when we get to the other side, it turns out that the shuttle is locked, and the only way to unlock it is to give Clank an upgrade so that we can break it manually. So another robot nerd upgrade later, we unlock the thruster pack and apparently give Clank some confidence and charisma.
That's right, I am the man.
But with Clank's new Riz, we are able to open the door and get to work in helping this planet as well. We then take to the skies and slowly but surely destroy all of the terrors in there. When we finish, we get the O2 mask which was promised, which allows us to breathe underwater, but not only water, we will also be able to explore the toxic planet with this as well. So, wunderbar. On the way out of the planet as well, we also find the scientist dude from earlier again. He's after something called raritanium, but the toxic dumping has ruined the chances of finding it on this island. He then tries to hypnotize us, but it fails. He says that this invention's called the Persuader and is meant to work on people, but the only thing that it apparently does is give discounts on the shops. So he said he'll trade it to us for a slice of delicious raritanium. So we'll find some and come back later for that. For now, back to the toxic planet. Now freely being able to explore with Ratchet, we travel into a new direction. Nothing much here on the journey unfortunately, however, but we do find our next skill point, as when we find a tube and fire a rocket straight through it killing something, we unlock the trophy Sniper, and with that we're officially halfway through all of the skill points. So for achieving 15 out of the 30, we also unlock Sketchbook, for, well, unlocking the sketchbook. Silly name if you ask me, but sod it. And we also eventually find a nanotech enhancer, and when we drink the delicious ooze, our health is increased, and we get another trophy as well for getting a single upgrade, unlocking us Hit Me More. But we're not done with trophies yet folks, as we then use a weapon called the Taunter to bait an enemy into running into us, but instead it fries itself on a security gate and we unlock the next trophy, hey, over here. But that's it for the trophies on this planet. We of course keep going to the end of the level and unlock yet another infobot. This one shows that Drek is on a snow planet. He says that he has found the perfect location for his new planet, but he has to destroy another one to take its place, and we've got to stop him. And I can smell that we are getting closer to ending this son bitch, so we continue. On the snow planet, the first thing that we find is actually another trophy, as when we kill all of the pesky ankle biters we unlock Pest Control. Definitely one of the easier skill points in the game. However, there isn't actually too much to this level. We find yet another upgrade for Clank which lets us move underwater faster, but all we do here is get to the end and take out the ship that's going to deliver and fire the nuke to take the planet out. Now admittedly, controlling this gun was absolutely shocking, and the fact that this little thing also spawned a million bastards at the same time really made this little bit tricky. But folks, you know by now that we do not give up. So eventually we took out the ship carrying the nuke, and when we put that ship down, an infobot reveals itself. On this one, Drek talks about blowing up another planet planet with a moon base, so we must go to said base ourselves to mess up this plan. Also, on the way out of this level, we find a friendly driller person, and when his tool breaks, we fix it for him by giving it a single slap, and as a reward, he gives us a clump of rare Ratanium, which I've heard is actually quite rare. Who'd have thought? So we head back to the scientist, exchange the gem for the persuader, and get our next trophies. These are not the droids you're looking for. God, that's a beefy name, but you gotta love a cheeky Star Trek reference. Anyway, back to the grind. Also, how many of you are moulding that I said Star Trek? At the moon base, Drek then tells Quark to end this. He knows we're on our way and he wants us dead. So when we find Quark, we go to take him out, but he drops onto a rather beefy looking ship. So we decide to steal one for ourselves and to put Quark down. Now, honestly, this fight was a lot easier than I was expecting it to be, as you just shoot him from quite far away. He can't really do anything to hurt you. It's only at the very end when he speeds up and there's less to shoot that you really need to get in close. So about 5 minutes later, we destroy his ship and watch him spin out of control into a nearby planet. Wonderful. Also unlocking us the next trophy, all quarked up. Also, Drek of course isn't here either. But we're getting closer as another info bot shows up. It shows us the city that Drek decided to destroy, and it is indeed getting pretty beaten up. Now, it's not the only thing getting beaten up though, as when we land, Clank gets immediately taken out by lightning. So because of the massive storm going on, he has to stay behind whilst Ratchet explores. Now, admittedly, this planet absolutely sucks. The lack of Clank, the strength of the enemies, and the horrible terrain make this just a nightmare experience where death is aplenty. So I decided to get another trophy for now, as when we return to the previous moon base and destroy all of the cargo ships on the map, we unlock sitting ducks. So back to the stormy planet, we make it one direction, and after dealing with hundreds of enemies, we find a Morph-Array, a weapon that turns enemies into chickens. Yep, this universe has chickens. Anyway, we head in the second direction, and after another awesome grind rail sequence, we meet a rather odd fellow. He doesn't really seem to understand the situation that he's in, so we just buy an info bot from him and leave. It shows off an ad for a Mecha Murder Bot, and I guess we're going to have to go get that at some point or something? Anyway, we return to Clank. However, now for another trophy, as when we return to Battaglia, we turn one of the tanks into a chicken thanks to our newly acquired chicken morph gun and unlock the trophy Cluck Cluck. A bizarre one, but certainly welcome. We then head to the next planet, the one where Clank originally came from. However, the main way forward is blocked and we need to get a gadget that will allow us to disguise ourselves as a robot to be allowed clearance, so we need to look elsewhere for now. We eventually find a scientist working on a massive pad of some sorts. By work on it, he also means that he wants to destroy it, as this is what is making those huge mech murder bots. Now, the best way to stop the mechs apparently is to offer up Clank, turn him massive and kill the mech so that the scientist can destroy the pad. Enter Clonk. Within seconds, we too are a massive unrelenting mechanical monster, and we waste no time in turning any other robot fellow into scraps. God, I love this section. I really hope that it doesn't get boring and repetitive and grindy for some reason. Anyways, we win, Clonk returns to Clank, and the scientist has altered the pad so that now it only works with Clank. As a way to thank us, he also gives us our next planet, which says it has a hologuise somewhere in it, so away we go. When we head there, it's more of the same folks. We fight, we explore, and we kill anything that dares stand in our way. We eventually make it to a rather lizard-looking gent who says that he has another hoverboard race for us to attend. Joy, back to this pain, eh? Now, honestly, I was quite used to the hoverboard races slightly more now, and not only that, the trophy tied to this race isn't for completing it fast, it's for performing enough tricks to score over 4,500 points, so we quickly come first and beat the race, proving ourselves to the lizard bastard, who rewards us with a hologeyser that we need to make it through the security. But knowing there's a trophy at stake, we got to work doing all of the best tricks that we could manage to get that score back up. Now, yeah, we failed a couple of times here, but my lord, this was so much easier than racing in the first one. In fact, it only took us about 5 attempts before we got to the 4,500 points and unlocked the next achievement, Magician, and I was very thankful for this. Now, before we cracked on, we decided to get another trophy as well, as we then went back to the resort planet and found and destroyed all of the boxes underneath the ocean, unlocking us the trophy, Buried Treasure. Now, wanting more trophies, I then decided to go for the most difficult skill point in the game again. This one has us travel back to the planet where we played as only Ratchet, and all we have to do is to destroy every single lamp on the map. This honestly took me a while, as I'd attempted this for about an hour or two previously, but we once again didn't give up, and finally and thankfully we did it and unlocked the trophy Vandal. Afterwards, we travelled back to the map and used the hologeyser to get into the complex and further throughout it. Now, this was actually quite a lot of fun and felt more like a stealth section in the game than anything, and you know how I feel about stealth games, I love them, so I really actually enjoyed this part. We eventually made it into the room where Clank was born and he talks to his mum there. She says that she is so proud of him, but there is more to do. So she squeezes out another info bot that says that Drek's planet is made and ready to go, but he needs to destroy the planet Veldin to make it perfect. And yeah, Veldin is RATCHET's planet. He's developed a laser to destroy it and is not far off from pressing the button. Now, on the next planet, nothing of really note happens here. We go through yet another fighting jet sequence, and we have to destroy some defences of the complex, you know, nothing too intense. But by doing so, we also find another info bot that shows us that Drek is literally standing at RATCHET's house, so we need to finally save it. Kill Drek, and save the universe from this crazy four-headed freak. But we can't do that just yet, as since I know that this is the final mission coming up, I wanted to get all of the skill points collected and out of the way. The next that we got was for going through this underwater obstacle section without taking a hit. Quite easy to do, but once done, we unlocked Careful Cruise. And with that, and a couple more done as well, we're on to the final skill point, and it takes place on the final level. Now, when we return, it's gone to Smeg. The planet is looking awful, but for the skill point, we need to take out 10 of these elite guards only using the wrench. Honestly, this was a lot easier than I was expecting, and since it counted if you died as well, we redid the first couple over and over again, until we got to the 10th, unlocking the trophy Going Commando, and for getting every single skill point in the game, we also unlocked the trophy Skillful. Time to kill Drek. We find another pad and turn into Clonk before we then find Drek moments later. We have a good old fashioned robo fight and start to paste him into the floor. This is where he cheats however though, and uses his robot to return Clank to his normal size. Now admittedly, this fight was really difficult, like I struggled a lot taking Drek down here. The lack of health that we have and just the tools at Drek's disposal was simply insane, and he just kept getting the better of us, especially at the final stage. As on the final stage, he hits the button to destroy the planet, and we have to slam on this lock to disable the countdown, also whilst fighting Drek and the many minions that he summons. Honestly, this fight was a nightmare and so much harder than I would have remembered, but I've said it a couple of times throughout the video, so you folks know that we got there eventually. We finally reduced his health to absolutely nothing, and then he falls down up on the platform, knocking the laser 150 degrees and sending him flying into the custom planet. Now with Drek on his own planet and the laser now pointing directly at it, yeah, why not? We slam the button and fire the laser straight into it, shattering it into pieces. The rubble of course hits Veldin, but somehow we make it through alive. And that's that, we're the heroes of the galaxy, and we're done with the story. However, just like a Marvel film, we're shown an after credit scene of Quark. No, sorry, Steve now apparently, as his job now is just to peddle some horrible gadgets. A fitting end to somebody who wanted fame so desperately. Also of course, for defeating Drek, we also unlock the next trophy, Drek This. Time to get this grind over and done with. Unfortunately though, we are about to hit the exhausting part of it. But before we restart the game, we go to get every single golden bolt that we missed. It did take a little while, but this part thankfully wasn't too much of a drag. It just took a couple of hours, but we eventually found every single golden bolt in the game and unlocked Bolt Commando. And it's a good job that we did, as we need these bolts to upgrade our weapons. As with them, we are now able to buy gold weapon variants. As when we enter this secret room on one of the levels, we find some of them, but I originally thought that we just needed the golden bolts to buy them. Nope, it turns out we need a lot of normal bolts as well. And also, fun fact, the rest of the trophies that we have left are all bolt related, as we need to buy all of the golden weapons, the Rhino at 150,000 bolts, the Ultra Nanotech health upgrade, and then have accumulated 1 million bolts throughout the entire game. Only problem with this is that the bolts are exactly easy to come by, and it's actually asking a hell of a lot to someone to buy all of this, but buy it we must. Now there are only two ways that I could see us farming enough bolts to get this. I could either learn how to glitch the game so that I could make it out of bounds to the racetrack and farm bolts there technically indefinitely, as the boxes just infinitely spawn. The only problem is I don't really want to glitch it, so the other method is the Clonk fight against the mecha bastards from earlier. Since you can repeat this as many times as you want, it's the only real way without glitching you could possibly get this done in a reasonable time, without just playing through the entire game like 6 to 8 times apparently. So I just decided to do the Clonk fight over over and over. Folks, I cannot stress to you, this part broke me. It was a nightmare, a genuine nightmare. We had to play this same little section literally hundreds of times. This took hours and hours and hours, but eventually the bolt amount was climbing, and after about 3 hours we had 150,000 bolts, and it was time to buy the rhino and get our next 2 achievements. When we took the rhino off this guy's hands, we unlocked Ultimate Animal for acquiring the rhino, and then Gadgeteer for acquiring every weapon in the game. It's progress, so back to the Clonk fight. We then did the fight again for about another 3 or 4 hours straight until we had 200,000 bolts, and I decided it was finally time to get all of the golden weapons and the final health upgrade for the next couple of trophies. So we went back to the Toxic Planet and acquired the final health upgrade, unlocking us the trophy Nano This. But folks, this is where I hilariously fecked up. So to get all 10 guns, we need to start the game again on New Game Plus, as that unlocks the final 5. Now when you go to do so, it asks you what save file to go over, and this is the mistake. I chose the wrong save, and even though I started the game again with my 200,000 bolts, I'd lost about 4 hours worth of Clonk fight progress, as since it loaded an older file, the amount of bolts I had to the path to 1 mil had just been horrendously reduced, and I didn't even know this yet. So we went to go get the golden guns, and it turns out that 200,000 still wasn't enough for them, so we speed ran through the game until we had enough bolts, and we did eventually return to get them all. We bought the final ones that we needed, and finally unlocked Ratchet King Midas for getting every golden gun in the game. And with that, the final trophy that we have to unlock is that for reaching 1 million bolts. And without knowing that we'd messed this up, or without knowing the current number that we were on, we just got to Clonk fighting. We did this for about another 5 hours and got to about 360,000 bolts. So me and the chat tried to do some workings out, and this is where we realised my mistake, as with all of the weapons that we'd bought, the gadgets, the golden versions, the Clank upgrades, absolutely everything, we estimated that we would only need roughly 300,000 for the trophy to pop. Only that wasn't the case, and I was terrified that our trophy was bugged, or that we'd lost all the progress. So absolutely defeated, we decided to mix up our bolt collection journey. We can just endlessly speedrun the game instead, and wait until we just hit 1 million all at once, because then at least we know we've done it. So at near 400,000 bolts, I loaded up my speedrun software and got to work. Honestly, I was so exhausted from this, and I just wanted this game over with, as this achievement was on the border of starting to ruin the experience for me. Like, we had just played the game to death and then some, so any more than this and it was really starting to feel like a chore. So we set off and started to gain bolts like we always did. And thanks to the golden variant of the Tesla Claw, we were frying everything in our path. I mean, look at the damage this does to the enemies in the boxes. Imagine it props to 400k, I'd cry with happiness. But I doubt it's going to happen. Oh, excuse me. Yep, we got it. And as you can tell, I was absolutely speechless. We finally got 1 million bolts and unlocked Bolt Collector, and with that we have finally got my first ever PlayStation Platinum, unlocking Gadget Master. I lost my mind here, I really did. I had hope, then I lost it all, then I had it crushed, and then I was ready to put in the hours again for it only to pop when I wasn't expecting it. It was just such an experience, but my god, this trophy sucked and it almost spoilt the game for me. However, thankfully it didn't. But with that we have our first ever Platinum on the channel, and the grind is over. Now folks, as I said, Ratchet & Clank is one of my favourite series of all times, but I will note that however much I enjoyed this game, the grind is an absolute nightmare, and this is still probably going to be my least favourite game in the series. Nothing against it, of course, it is a product of its time, but considering how smooth and perfect the future games are, this one just lacks a lot by comparison, and to be honest, that's a great thing. Sequels should be absolutely better than what they came from, so even though I will no doubt enjoy this game the least, I still had a ton of fun with it for the most part, and it was amazing to re-experience Ratchet & Clank's humble beginnings. But with that folks, let's get to the stats. For Ratchet & Clank, it took us just over 36 hours to grind all 35 trophies that this game has to offer. With the humble beginnings of this game, I'm going to be giving it a solid 7 out of 10, as I know where the series goes and that it only gets better, but you still have to respect the hell out of this as a start, as it still holds up really well by today's standards, even if the trophies don't. For the difficulty of the achievements, I'm going to be giving this game a 7.5 out of 10. Not only is it a humongous grind that will no doubt bore the butter off you, but but there are also a couple of challenges within the game that are quite difficult to pull off. The street-like skill point for one example, the hoverboard races is another, as well as the tricky nature of the game itself. And it goes without saying, but the hardest trophy without question goes to the collect 1 million bolts, as this is where your soul will leave your body. However, that's it from me this week, folks. And without saying much, I think it's almost time, as Sunday we have the most requested game that this channel has ever had. The game that you folks all seem to be waiting for is happening next Sunday. It's the first in a two-part series as we finally tackle the achievements for Prey. This game has been requested every day on every video, and it's finally coming. So make sure that you subscribe, as that is a grind that you do not want to miss. So make sure that you come back next Sunday for Prey Part 1. Also folks, whilst you're at it, why not swing by my Twitch as well, as this is where we do the grinds live and we play some pretty amazing games together. So come follow me there, it would be lovely to have you. But folks, that's it from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and once again thank you to my amazing patrons. Your support is amazing and I cannot thank you enough for it. But thank you all. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye bye for now.